understand, because we also know it's dinner time, it's lunch time, it's breakfast time, depending on the time zones that we're on. And for the ladies on here, I am really, really excited. And promoting African mental health began last year during COVID. I'll give you just a little bit of history in case we have somebody who's new on here. And our goal was to reach our African community in the diaspora, no matter the country, continents that we're living in, to provide a way for us to know about mental health and to let you know about the resources that were available in Africa and also here in the Western side. And also no matter where you're serving, because I know that there are a lot of Africans also in the Middle Eastern countries, serving in other countries in Africa, in Europe, in Asia. We know there's quite a large number of Africans in Asia, especially in China. So no matter where we are, our mission and our goal and our passion with Dr. Lillian was to have us be able to know an African face that you could reach out to if you wanted to talk about issues, and especially things that you needed help from a cultural point of view. And so we have a couple of providers that always join us. And I'm so glad to see Mrs. Nesta Theuri on here. She's a provider based in Nairobi. And we're going to have her maybe share towards the end because we love being able to connect you guys. So first things first, house cleaning. If you are not on our Facebook group yet, we would like to invite you to the Promoting African Mental Health group on Facebook. We interact on there, we share things about mental health, anything that has to do with mental health, relationships, emotions. And then also for the providers, we have the Network of African Mental Health Providers. It's also on Facebook. So if you're a mental health provider, you're working in a capacity as a mental health provider, that is where we get together and we have monthly meetings where we talk about mental health and also help each other know about certifications and things that are coming up. So those are the two groups that I wanted to mention. And again, inviting you and welcoming you so much for joining us today. I see we have a couple of people still coming in. Wonderful, wonderful. So Women's Health, Women's History Month, celebrating all the women around the world. It's been an exciting month. Because sometimes we don't get a chance to think about, and as we speak today, I want to challenge you guys, think about the women who've made such a difference in our lives, especially as African women. For most of us, we will think of our parents, aunties, grandparents. So today we are really blessed to have our first speaker is going to be Miss Brenda Gore, and I'll let you know a little bit about her. And for one second, give me.
You're muted, Julia.
Thank you, Miss Millicent. If you're on here and you're a parent too, you can either wave or you can put a sign up in the chat room, because we'll have a few people popping in and out, and my people are here just like your people. And so this morning I am gonna start by sharing with us about Miss Brenda, who has been such an amazing presenter. If you guys have been here in previous events, you've remembered when Miss Brenda shared a while back about mental health with us, and I will let you know a little bit about her and before she speaks to us right now. So, all right, so Miss Brenda is an intersectional health promotion specialist. Her passion is in preventive health that intersects with mental health and sexuality and the impact it has on our overall health. She's worked in the field of mental health and social services for over 15 years, teaching health programs, providing psychoeducation, which is what we're doing today, a psychoeducation portion. She's also the founder and content creator of bnhealthmatters.com, and she'll put that link on the chat room so you guys can have a look at it. Her goals are to empower people, especially women. I have to say that. She's awesome at that, by creating a culture of normalizing stigmatized sexual health topics. So Brenda is a mental health coach certified by the American Association of Christian Counselors. She's volunteered in the African community in the US at various community social events and served in the leadership of the Kenya Christian Fellowship of America, KCFA, the New England chapter, for many years. She has a BSc in psychology, a master's in public health from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and she has a postgraduate certificate in sexual health in rehabilitation medicine from the University of Alberta, Canada. Brenda loves to blog, walk, dance, enjoy a good comedy, and you'll get that from her as she speaks. She's a dynamic speaker. Please welcome Ms. Brenda Ngura with me.
Hi, everyone. Just wave if you can. I'm glad to be here. I really like joining these webinars every month, but I like sitting at the back seat to learn more from my peers. I know sexual health, sexuality is a topic that people don't like talking about, especially women from Africa. Again, it comes from where we come from, but I hope we'll open up. I like advocating for sexual health, sexual pleasure, and enjoying ourselves, and in terms of our emotions part of it. So today we'll just have a basic understanding of why we need to think about why sexual health, where does it even connect with mental health? This is a mental health webinar, so where does sexual health come in? So I have a screen I want to share with you. And my first question before I begin my webinar, sorry, just give me a second, I don't know. I think the first question I'd like to ask, what do you think, what comes to your mind when you hear about sexual health? If people could just write on the screen, I would really appreciate, so that this can become a discussion. And trust me, whatever you write, there's not a wrong or right answer. So I don't know if Julia, you can see the screen and read it for me if people are writing anything.
Yes, I can see the screen. I'm watching the chat room. Yes.
Okay. Any comments?
We can see the screen.
Any comments? So I know people, I don't know, I feel uncomfortable talking about sex. It's not sexual. And when for this webinar, sexual health, I'll use the term sexual health and sexuality, but I'm meaning the same thing. And so what does sexual health include? It includes our biological sex, female, male, our behavior, self and body image. When you think about self-esteem, think about your body image. Gender expression is a big thing here in North America. I'm sure most of you work in places where it's even in your work policies. Our interest, functions, pleasure. Think about something like FGM. It's a political issue and it's still a sexual pleasure issue. And most of us come from Africa where that is not even a topic that is entertained. Many questions. Is this even normal? Our values, our personality, communication. Think about relationship. Communication in relationships. Think about reproduction. We were all born, that was part of reproduction. And as we go on, we realize, out of this webinar, by the end of this webinar, I want us to ask ourselves this question: is this normal? There's so many things that we have gone through as women and we've normalized, but I want you to ask yourself, is this normal or is it not normal? So what some of the biases I want us to discuss. Why are there so many biases when it comes to sexuality? Speak about, about sexuality, think about spirituality, religion, culture is a big thing. I was brought up not talking about sex, thinking about the sexual health topics, sexuality topics. That was only entertained if you were supposed to get married. So people were just like, we did not even understand so many things. So what did that do to us? Another bias that we have is we've normalized some situation. Menstrual pain is an issue that I don't know about you, but I hear so many people say, oh, I have pain during my menses, and they've normalized it. Ask yourself, is that really normal? Is that something that needs some attention? Something like sexual violence, domestic violence. Most of us grew in communities where there was a lot of either women being beaten, about emotional abuse, financial abuse. We've normalized that. People are not talking about it. But what is happening? There are a lot of mental health issues arising from that. And COVID has taught us domestic violence has risen to great numbers. Lack of cultural competence. And that, especially for us who are in the diaspora, I know sometimes we don't have doctors who understand that we come from, we have other factors that are impacting our health. I always say, and I'm not ashamed, I'm a Black woman. So anytime I go to the doctor, I bring that with me. I can't detach it. I'm just not a woman. I'm a Black woman. And there's some disorders and some diseases. There's some issues in life. Just because I'm Black, I have to bring it to my health too. Policies that stigmatize sexuality. I don't know if you think about that. It's a big issue. And I'll just give an example. I know so many of us have heard about issues in the media. Maybe it's somebody who was, there was a story, they violated someone sexually, and that goes to court, and that person has been freed. Why? There's a lot of political issues out there that we need to be aware of and understand the politics of it. Just the other day, one of my mentors, I just want to give this example. One of my mentors, she has a very big following in one of the social media platforms, and she posted some content on her platform, and she has a big following. Unfortunately, this platform pulled her content and shut down her social media. Why? Because they thought her content was porn. So she had to advocate for herself. So what am I saying? Even companies, organizations, platforms have stigmatized these topics. So what is happening is we are not talking about it. And one of the things we'll discover as we talk today, some topics might be sensitive, but I want you to think, is this something that needs some attention? Is this something that I need to talk to a doctor about? Is this something that I need to see a therapist about? Again, thinking about this month, it's Women's Health. International Women's Day was on, I believe, Saturday on the 8th. And the theme was choose to challenge. What I want us to challenge is people taking our reproductive rights. I want us to think, this is me, I need to take care of it. We are very aggressive when it comes to finances, education, all these things, but when it comes to our own reproductive health, we are not assertive about it. So I want us to choose to challenge what we've been taught and learn something that can help us be better people and more healthier people. So today I'll just touch basically, I don't want you to dwell on the sciences of it, but have an understanding. And I want us to think about an intersection. Throughout this presentation, I want you to think about an intersection. And that's why I have a picture of a road with an intersection. And when you think about an intersection, a traffic is supposed to flow a certain way. Some cars will be going north, some will be going south, some will be taking right, some will be taking left. And when things are not going right, during something happens, there might be a jam, there might be an accident. Maybe in such a road, on such a road, a car might hit a building near the road. So there's so much activity that's going on. But if traffic is going okay, the way it's supposed to be, things are fine. And I want us to think about our bodies the same way. A very important part of our biological part is the endocrine system. And the endocrine system is a very important aspect of the sexual health part of it and our mental health part of it. What does it do? It produces and excretes hormones. Think about things like cortisol level, things about serotonin, all those chemicals you've had, chemicals and hormones you've had, they're all part of the endocrine system. Think about things that you've had like a pituitary gland, adrenaline gland. Your ovaries are part of the endocrine. For men, the testes are part of the endocrine system. So what does it do? It controls metabolism, our reproduction, our sexual development. Think about something like from puberty, things like menopause. This is part of the sexual development part of it. Think about the growth, our physical, our mental growth, our movement. This is a very vital part of our bodies. So I just want you to just remember the intersection. So I'm almost ending my webinar, but I want to ask ourselves, have we normalized some of these situations? Physical and emotional changes that related to sex. And again, I go back to the intersection and I go back to the endocrine system. The sexual response cycle, this is how you respond. Your body responds physically, emotionally to sex. There's a way that traffic of the body is supposed to go. And I thought about these issues because I hear them a lot, especially in our African community. Pain disorder, you will hear some women say, I have pain. I'm in pain when I'm having sex. Some people are not even excited, they're not feeling it. Some people don't even have the desire, like when they see their man, they're like, oh God, this dude, you start cooking, you start putting the kids in bed, like you really don't even want to get there. Some people don't climax. I want us to ask ourselves, is that normal? Again, going back to the endocrine system, there's some more, all these issues, there are some things that need to be attended to, and it all goes back to the hormones. Why are these disorders? And these are real disorders that need attention of a doctor. Some of them are due to psychological. Some of us are brought up in communities where we were taught sex is bad, sexuality is bad. We don't talk about these things. We don't deal about these things. And what happens sometimes, those psychological things affect the way we respond to issues. Trauma, sexual trauma. Those are issues that can create things like fear of sex, having a problem, even being excited about sex. And those are things I always say you need to seek help from a therapist. You need to seek with a clinician, be it a psychologist, be it a psychotherapist. Illnesses is a big thing. And I personally am very vigilant and always say, if you have a specific illness, be it diabetes, and I'll show you an example in my next slide, be it diabetes, be it depression, be it high blood pressure, start from there. Why? Because those illnesses come, they come again with different hormonal levels in the body. Another thing, I just want to give an example. You might have had, especially as women, there's a lot of uterine fibroids in the Black community, a lot of endometriosis. If you've noticed, and if you're free with people, most of those people will have a lot of depression, anxiety, and that needs to be taken care of. You just can't sit around and say, I have fibroids, and then you notice you're always angry, you're always depressed. Maybe it has something to do with your hormonal levels that needs attention of a medical provider. I always like saying, be vigilant on following with your support. And all these disorders, again, have been linked to anxiety, depression, relationship problems, body image. Think about somebody maybe who's having issues with a pain disorder, does not even enjoy sex, or even cannot climax in a relationship, how that trickles down to the relationship. Maybe you're just, now it's starting to have a problem with your husband, it trickles down, and now you're mad with your children, it goes to work. Like one thing leads to another, but if you take it at the cost, you will avoid so many problems. So what I want us to ask, is this pain normal? Is not being aroused normal? Is having no desire normal? And is there something that's underlying? One thing I want us to note, again, this is just a webinar of educating ourselves, that does not mean, for example, if you have an issue of sexual response cycle. Maybe let's say, for example, you really have a desire disorder that you really don't feel it. It might come from maybe there's an underlying issue, maybe another disease, and that's what it has trickled down to this disorder. It might also mean maybe you are depressed and it has trickled down to your sexuality. So unless you talk to a medical provider, and I'll keep stressing that, you need to capture where the problem is and then go from there. And some of the questions I get, like what kind of support is out there? Obviously your doctor is the best person, because your doctor will try to figure out like what started this, where is it going, and work from there. But some of the things that have worked obviously are things like hormonal treatment. There is something called pelvic physiotherapy. There is diet. Actually, research is starting to show that most of our sicknesses are from our gut health. So it's very, very important to work on your gut health. Also, I always like stressing working on your stress, because again, what happens if you're not working on your stress, it's trickling down to something else. That's why personally, I like to dance. I like to laugh. I like to watch a comedy. I like to do my blog. Why? Because I'm trying to keep myself in a good mood before something trickles from one thing to the other. So in my next slide, I'll just show you an example of diabetes. And as we know, diabetes is a disease of the endocrine system, and it affects the pancreas. So this is some of the impact of diabetes. Again, it's not in everyone, it's just an example, and I got this slide from Kaiser Permanente. So what are how does diabetes affect sexual health? Lack of interest, sexual difficulties. You'll hear in men, like sometimes they have erectile dysfunction. And again, goes back to some of the disorders I talked about. Some people might not have the desire. Increased depression, reduced energy. So these are just examples. Does that mean, again, that diabetes causes all this? No, it depends with the person and the circumstances that surround them. And that might also mean something like, for example, you might be depressed. Think about this. Maybe, for example, you have diabetes, you start to stress, you start stress eating. The next thing you know, you've added weight. It has affected your blood sugars. The next thing, it goes to something to diabetes. So I think one thing I'm trying to stress on us is taking care of things when they happen at that specific time. You don't want things trickling down. I will add, I have one quick question. What percentage of doctors do you think ask sex-related questions? Anyone, just throw your comment on the chat box. This was a very weird statistic that I found. Any comments on the chat box? I can't see, obviously, wherever I am.
Somebody said 100% OBGYN, 20% OBGYNs. So very few.
Very few? What was the 100%?
Somebody said 100%. Some doctors 100%. The experience is 100%. We have 10%, 50%.
Oh, great. I'm great. To your Shoka,
a lot of immigrants want to move into.
So there was a statistic that was, there was a research that was done, and 12 to 34% of doctors asked sex-related questions during regular visits. So that's a big shocker when you think about it. So what research was showing in this specific study is that most of you go to the doctors, there's always a medical history form that asks diabetes, what is your family history? What kind of sicknesses do you have? You all might see that form. What you don't see, most doctors don't have, is also a sexual history form that asks about practices, things like protection, your behaviors. And I'm not saying it's all doctors, I don't know about you, but I have never gone and seen those questions in those forms. Why? Maybe some doctors have biases, they don't have time, or they don't even know where to refer you to. Like, it becomes a murky subject anyway. But that was a statistic that was done. But so this specific research showed that most doctors limit their visit to contraception, STI, that is sexually transmitted infection, and specific issue that has taken you to the doctor. So most of them don't talk about your sexual function. Then that goes to you telling the doctor, oh, I don't feel it, I'm never in the mood, dysfunction, and sexual minority groups. And when I speak about sexual minority groups, I'm talking about people's different lifestyles, because people we all do different, have different lifestyles and behaviors behind closed doors. And those, if we are not discussing that with your doctors, we are not getting a holistic approach. And I will give my personal example. I went one time to do my pap smear. I'm very open about this subject, so I'm good. I went to have a pap smear one time, and this was a specific women's hospital, and this nurse was asking me what I thought was very private information. Actually, I was pissed off, let me just say it. She was asking me, what kind of sex do you have? Do you have anal sex? Do you have oral? I'm like, okay, this is just too much information, you know? But what she was trying to do, and that is what most doctors need to be doing, and I'm not saying that's their job, they need that information in order to give you what you need for your appointment, and to understand some things that are related to your behaviors and your physical health. I hope that is making sense. So that is vital information that might be missed if you're not communicating that to the doctor. So what am I saying? Let us normalize, let us choose to challenge what we've been taught, and be very open about what we're doing, because it's impacting our overall health. Last but not least, as I end, listen to your body. Your body is interconnected. Remember the intersections of a road. You're not a doctor. And I'll give an example. I knew somebody one time, every time she had her period, she would limp, like literally limp. So she looked, she monitored herself 2-3 months. She noticed every time I have my period, I'm limping. So she went to the doctor. She's like, okay, I have this weird thing that my leg, I am really in pain and limping during my period. The doctor said, oh, I think you have fibroids. When they did the test, true to it, she had fibroids. So what am I saying? One thing might be connected to another. Just monitor yourself. If you don't think it is connected, just write it down. Tell your doctors, because they might find something that's connected that you have no understanding about. Psychological factors and social factors play a great role in your sexual health. Remember my first slide, things like our spirituality, things about policies, all these things play vital role in our sexual health. And what do I mean also by this? This is what I mean. Research has shown that genetic factors play 30% role in our health. The other percentage, which is 70, it's the psychological and social factors. What does that mean? It means, for example, I come from a family with a history of diabetes, that I am at a risk factor, 30% risk factor of getting diabetes. The other 70% is how I eat, how I behave, my stress, and all that stuff, my psychosocial factors. So think how powerful your psychosocial factors play in your overall health and in your sexual health. Remember again to mention anything to your doctors. I said, if you have a diagnosis, I like stressing that. I find, especially in the mental health field, that there's a tendency to not ask people or even know what kind of diagnosis people have. And it's very, very vital. Don't hide it if you go to the doctor. If we have mental health providers, I always like to know people if they have diabetes, if they have whatever it is. Because again, those diagnoses come with a lot of hormonal fluctuation, and it's good to know that. Learn self-care strategies for your stress. Again, going back to the endocrine system, cortisol is a very important stress hormone in our bodies. And if we are not trying to manage our stress, you might need medication. I'm not saying everyone needs, but it might mean learning your own self-care strategies to put your happy hormones up there and be in good levels. I personally, like before this presentation, I put some music because you know what? I like music. I like listening to it. I like putting my happy hormones to it. So learn what works for you. Last but not least, sexual health is health. Let's normalize it. Let's appreciate it. Appreciate your reproductive organs. And you know what? Keep your appointments with your doctors. And I always like to emphasize, make a therapist a friend to your health. Take care and God bless.
Wow. Almost like, wow. Thank you so much, Brenda, for that amazing information. I'm just like, I want to drink it in. That is amazing. And we're so lucky and blessed that this video is going to be available on YouTube. And you can go back. I know I'll be going back to look at all those awesome points that she was sharing with us. And thank you for reminding us that sexual health is health. Because as women, we're so embarrassed to even talk to our doctors, especially as African women. I remember that I don't remember any African doctor asking me that when I was, but maybe because I was younger, but I didn't remember that. And then you'd never volunteer the information because you were always so embarrassed to say, oh, there's an itch, or there's this, or there's pain, even as girls, because girls get yeast infections and they wouldn't know what it was. So I'm so glad that we are the generation, and our older generations have been changing that by educating the younger girls. So thank you so much, Ms. Brenda, for reminding us to be really open, honest, and even asking doctors questions that we're uncomfortable with. And again, as she shared, this is advice. We really, really recommend that you talk to your medical doctor, to your OBGYN, for your specific needs. And also in every city, there are health clinics, even in Nairobi, because I remember some health clinics. I lived in Eastlands, Umoja, Buruburu. I remember we had clinics that you could go to and ask questions. And now with telehealth, there are doctors who are also available to do the appointments, or health clinics available to do the appointments online. So please don't suffer alone. Thank you, Ms. Brenda, for reminding us that, not to suffer alone. So I am so excited right now to present to you our next presenter. Her name is Miss Millicent Nyangon, and I have known her for over 20 years. I first met her in Dallas, Texas, but she has a family connection. She went to school with my cousin, my very first cousin. And so she's kind of, I guess, had a thing in our family for a long time now that I think about it. And she's been such a blessing to us personally. If you might have seen her show, she's the host of a Friday night show with diaspora parents, helping parents to navigate parenting, no matter where you are in the world. And so Millicent Nyangon is a really highly self-motivated, solution-oriented, results-oriented person. She's the founder of Recover All Ministries. She's an evangelist, by the way. If you've had her speak and preach, it's amazing. She holds a bachelor's degree in organizational communication and another bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Texas in Arlington. What? I was a UTA alumni too. So, and she thrives in both business and political communication strategies. Let me just tell you, I've never seen a business that Millicent has not thrived in. She goes to the top. Every business she's done, she goes to the top. Her passion is helping people find solutions, bouncing back, the ability to bounce back in your life no matter what you've been through. She's an MC. A lot of you have been at events where she's MC'd. She's a conference. I will add, powerful, powerhouse conference speaker, communication strategist, political strategist. She's the wife of Simon Nyangon and a mother to Sifa and Joshua, who are adult children, awesome, awesome children, leaders in the community. And she's a businesswoman. If you guys remember, years back, we bought Mary Kay from her. She did Organo Coffee, I remember that. Right now, she's also a mental health coach, a mentor, founder and CEO of Kingdom Zumba. We've danced with her online. She does health exercise programs online. And so she's been a person who's really passionate about health. She's the owner of KZ and RM Activewear t-shirt line. I've bought the t-shirts. She's a published author. which is such an amazing blessing. And I want to show you, if you haven't seen her book, this is her book, Bounce Back. So I want to recommend, if you go online, the Bounce Back book is on there, and it is on Amazon as a Kindle, or it's also available by ordering directly from her. So she's going to come on right now and share with us her journey in health and also her philosophy in life. You guys are in for a treat. Please welcome the one and only Millicent Nyangon.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Julia. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I feel very honored to have been invited to come in your forum. You ladies are ladies with a lot of information. Your heart is for the community to understand. And the Bible tells me that my people perish for lack of knowledge, and knowledge is available, has to be sought. So I love it because you have built a forum that has knowledge. And thank you, Brenda, because you have thrown some points there that I felt like we should have like 2-hour conference just listening to you, because I have a lot to ask you. But anyway, let me get back to but thank you so much. It's really a pleasure meeting you today. Well, I'm going to talk about my journey, my battle with lupus specifically, and this is more about my health. I grew up a very athletic person. I did athletics in school. I played for my high school volleyball. I'm a track runner, 100 meters. I ate well. I have a very good relationship with food, in the sense that I know what I put in my mouth, what exactly it's going to do. I'm a very, very health conscious human being. And so when I was hit with lupus, I couldn't understand, how, why, because I paid attention to what I was eating. I started off by, as Brenda was saying, you understand your body. You know what your body does and what it does not do. And fast forward in 2016, I was invited to MC, which is my passion. I tell people, me and the microphone are buddies. If you have an event and it's not going the way you want, give me the mic, tell me what you want, I'm gonna deliver. I thank God for that gift. I love it, I love it. And so I was emceeing this event, and it was a beautiful event. It's called Queen's Night, and it happens in Dallas. It used to happen before the pandemic every beginning of the year. And so we dress up and we show up, and had lost some weight, which I was happy about because my dress could fit. However, when I was emceeing this event, I wear very high shoes, very, very high. I wear 6-inch shoes, nothing, yeah. So I was getting tired, which was not the normal for me. I don't remove my shoes when I get into a function, when I'm preaching, whether I'm preaching for an hour, 45 minutes, I am not going to remove my shoes. I'm more comfortable with high shoes, more balanced. I feel more balanced when I have high shoes. I'm one of those people, if I wear flat shoes, you will laugh at the way I walk. I have to have a lift on my leg. I don't know why, but that's just the way I am. But I noticed something and I paid attention. I was getting tired. I wanted to lean on the podium. And I realized that's not normal. As Ms. Brenda was telling us, you got to ask the question, is this normal? Why is this happening to me? This is not my normal self. I looked at the pictures. When the pictures came out, I loved the pictures. We looked great, me and my daughter, that we had gone with her too. But I noticed that my body shape had changed, because that's how much attention I pay to myself. It's not vanity, it's me. I want to know. So I looked at the pictures and I said, something is not right with the way my body looks. And what really made me realize that my body doesn't look right. I like the way my waist look, but I didn't like the way my behind looks. You know, I have a nice big, we are being candid here. So I looked at the picture and my booty my behind, this African back was not looking right. It was flatter. I said, people don't lose weight until back there. So what is really going on? I'm looking a little flat on the back. Imagine that, just looking at my picture, looking at that, I knew something is going on and I need to see a doctor. But I did not see a doctor immediately, but I continued feeling tired. And then a rash appeared on my nose. And let me tell you, I was like, that's not normal. Something is happening to me, you know? And I went to the doctor, my primary physician, and she told me it's allergies. And I told her I've never had allergies for 20 years that I've been in America. She said, sometimes your body change. And so that might be allergies. Sent me off to go get Claritin. I was looking for Claritin all over. But to cut the long story short, after a while, that rash increased. And that's the picture you see on my book. I looked, my hair started falling off. I realized this is not normal. This is not supposed to be happening. My weave is not supposed to be falling off with my hair. And after my primary physician looked at me, and I thank God, because she was an African-American woman. And she looked at me with the rash on my face, having formed what she called a butterfly. My eyebrows were fallen, I had rashes over here, my nose. So that thing had come like this. And she told me, that rash has formed a butterfly on your face. I said, so what does that mean? She said, we need to get you to our autoimmune specialist. You need to see a rheumatologist, because it's telling me, that rash is telling me you have an autoimmune disease. We have to figure out which one, but you have an autoimmune disease. So just like as Brenda was talking about knowing yourself, it was important for me to go find out from a physician and not just assume. I am a Christian. I believe in prayer. I pray for people. I believe in laying hands on the sick and they recover. But I'm also an advocate that if as a woman or even a man or as a child, if you feel something is not right, is not normal, it's not normal. You don't normalize what normally does not happen to you. Don't try to say, maybe I'm growing old, I've lived half a century, or no. You got to go figure out, is this normal for somebody my age, or is it something wrong? And so when she told me we need to find a rheumatologist real quick, and that's what we did. And by the time I found one and got in, I was looking like the way the book showed, the way I was, my hair was all down. My face was all rashed, was full of rash. My skin looked like a frog. In a span of just like a month, I was unrecognizable. I couldn't recognize myself. And my family was like, what is going on? Finally, they took me in. I was admitted for 3 days, all blood work done. And I was told I have systemic lupus. And that's where the journey begins. Because remember, I am a very health conscious person. I don't eat without understanding what it is that is going through my mouth. My first training college that I went to is foods and nutrition. So I understand. So I asked the doctor, what is autoimmune disease? And he told me what it is, and I've written it in the book. And he said, my white blood cells are fighting me. My body is fighting me. Instead of fighting disease, it's fighting me. So as a Christian, of course, prayer was number one. I was like, no, no, by the stripes of Jesus Christ, I was healed. In my journey, I combined prayer and medicine. They had to work together. I couldn't just depend on one. I couldn't depend on the doctors alone, because the doctor told me upfront, say to me, I asked them, how did I get it? They said they don't understand how lupus comes. I said, how are you going to cure it? He said, there's no cure. Hey, okay. That's when you hear the rubber meets the road and the road meets the rubber. And I was like, hey, this one I have not seen in my family. I don't have a friend. I've not heard of anybody having this. The doctor told me I had the most severe thing, that's the most severe one, all right? It presented in all forms, alopecia, it presented on my face, and that in itself became like a saving grace for me, because some people, they don't present. They have the lupus, it's eating them internally, it's systemic, so it's eating the system. It means your system is messed up. Something has entered your system, so your heart is in danger, your liver is in danger, every organ, you know, your sexual organs are in danger, everything, everything, kidneys, everything is in danger. It's actually wanting to stop your system, literally. Your brain is in trouble, because I was told, my family was told to be very patient with me when I'm talking, because it reached a point I could not think, talk as fast as I'm doing now. As an evangelist, that was a problem, because I had to think and then I had to talk. And so one had to be patient with me. So anyway, the journey began when I was told that the problem that I have, and I was told that there's no cure. So immediately I said, I told the doctor, thank you for letting me know that you really don't have a solution for me. So why are we taking medicine? What is the medicine supposed to do for me? And then he told me, we are controlling your white blood cell. You're just controlling. We just want to control. Right there, that can break you. As a person who has served the Lord for such a long time, I gave my life to the Lord in 1991. You can be asking God, why me? And that's when you start becoming depressed. When you ask questions like those, why me? Why me? I didn't ask that question. One thing I said, God, you have called yourself Jehovah Rapha. You gave yourself that name. You say that you are my healer. So right now, these doctors that you have given the intelligence of becoming doctors have reached their end. You, Lord, will take over from here. I had to speak to myself. I had to encourage myself. I had to default on the word of God that says, and nothing shall be impossible with God. I had to preach to myself. That is Luke chapter 1, verse 37. And nothing will be impossible with God. The same word that I was speaking to people out there, I had to now internalize it. I had to make it practical for me because of my mental health. I had to focus. I had to keep myself in a place of focusing on my getting better. Even though the doctors had reached their end, and even though they kept giving me appointments to come so that they can watch and monitor my system, I understood that my healing can come, by faith. And another scripture that helped me was Proverbs 23, verse 7, and says, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. As a person thinks, so are they. It meant that my mind, I had to take control of the thoughts of my mind, that my healing was going to come first by me watching what I think. If I tell myself I am finished, that's exactly what was going to happen. It's going to be finished. So it was, first of all, personal. Before I look at my surroundings, because you start from within, from your mind, from the way you think. For me, it was a rather quick transition, because as you've heard, I'm an evangelist. I have lived my life trusting in the word of God and believing in God, since 1991, when I made that commitment that I'm going to live my life focusing on the Lord. Then I realized that my surrounding had to be checked. I decided to stop everything, to stop business, to stop, and I thank God for my husband. I have a loving husband who's very patient. He understood this is a battle, and that we are going to go together. You know, he understood that now is where you say, for better, for worse, this is worse. And that we together are going to believe that even though there's no cure, right, that we are going to be okay. And so my inner circle had to be on, you know, my children jumped in, speaking positive words around their mother, saying, Mommy, we're going to make it. It's going to be all right. That was important for my mental health. It was important for my strength. I was fighting a battle that I'd never fought, never watched anybody fight. So my husband and my children were my core inner circle. They spoke life in my house, just like Brenda. Brenda, you and I are twins. Dancing and music. Oh my word, I have a party all by myself. I make a party. I don't wait for people to start to invite me to their parties. No, I have a party every day of my life. I go to the bathroom with music. I mean, I take my time because I'm going to be showering and dancing all at the same time. My happy hormones, I had Brenda calling them my happy hormones. My happy hormones are always up every day. So I started putting music, listening to the word, just saturating myself with life. And then I have a fantastic group of fellowship. We call ourselves the 12 Springs. Musi is over here. She's one of them, in that we have known each other for a long time. We decided to come together and just be fellowshipping together. My fellowship was one of my anchors. They came in my house. Every month we have fellowship and we rotate, but because my immune system was low and because I couldn't go out the way I was looking, they made sure they brought fellowship at home. So I would like to say, when you're going through a tough journey, you need people around you that will speak life. You need to be very selective about who is around you, who is speaking in your ear, you know? And so Musi and my fellowship group, in fact, we're even meeting tonight via Zoom, made sure that they came for fellowship. They were supportive, you know, brought food, helped, and always, I didn't have to think about what we're going to eat. You know, my friends rallied in, my husband was great at that. And so my journey has been, it was not easy. It took about 2.5 years, 2.5 years for me to be able to be seen again, because I also shut down my social media. I wasn't on any of my social media platforms. What I want to say to all of us is that when you are in a tough journey, be patient. Patience is very important. Let us be patient with our friends when they're going through stuff, no matter what it is. Whatever battle it is they are fighting, let's be patient with them, because sometimes we really want to see our healing come quick, but God works it out, And so what is important is your state of mind. When you think negative thoughts, when you think, why me? Move from that real quick. Move from why me and to a place of, okay, now what next? What am I supposed to be doing now, doctor? Tell me, how am I supposed to position myself to function? Okay, healing is out of the place for you. You have no solution there, but what can you tell me so that I can function as a mother, as a woman, as a business person, how can I function? And so that's the information I got from my physicians. My dermatologist told me, you must put on sunscreen, all that stuff, wear long sleeve when it's summer, or long sleeve light tires. If you're wearing pants, wear pants that are not too wide, because the heat from the ground will give you inflammation. Such information I got because I seeked to move forward. I didn't want to dwell on woe is me. I seek to move forward. There's a way to function no matter what, despite of or in spite of, there's a way to function. So I just want to encourage everybody, get the book. The whole story is there. There's a whole lot happened just by that diagnosis, the side effects of the medications, the surgery I had to go to, all that stuff. but it took 2.5 years. In 3 years, I was now functioning. I still take medication, just had a virtual appointment with my rheumatologist yesterday. And in now 5 years, is it 5? 4 years, yeah, 5 years now since I was diagnosed. And yesterday is the day I had my rheumatologist tell me, I am absolutely happy with your blood work. Like, it has taken that long for my physician to even, utter those words. She will say, or she always say, you're doing well, you're doing good. But yesterday is when we reached the point where she can say, I'm happy as to how your blood work, where your blood work is. So be patient, be patient. God is always faithful. And remember 2 Chronicles chapter 25, 20 verse 5, the battle that Jehoshaphat was fighting, God fought it. God, the Bible says, God said, the battle is not yours. The battle is not yours. The battle is the Lord's, and it's victory that is yours. So I think that's what I can say in this few minutes. Thank you so much for having me. And I tell you, nothing is impossible with God. I thank God very much for my husband, because as Brenda was saying, there had to be a whole lot of understanding, because sexually I wasn't active. I was not to the prime, He couldn't get the prime Millicent. Oh my gosh, even just looking at me, I had no strength. I was like, oh my goodness, this man, he's also juicy, wonderful. I can't even lift my leg. You get what I'm saying? I was like, oh boy. So, there are all lots of things that happen. You've got to be on the same page. The husband has to be able to be told what's happening to the wife. And once you understand, it's not forever. She's not forbidden. She's not going to be this, whatever, forever. Then you work out ways. Once you understand, once you know what's happening, once you know how to work it, And as I finalize, behind this book of mine at the back, right over here, there is a quote that came to me as I was writing the book, that when the life throws you a curve ball, catch that ball, change the game. Change the game. So I understood I may not be strong, but change the game, fix what can be fixed, do what can be done. My sexual life with my husband, we need to figure out a way so that we still enjoy ourselves. We can still do the things we need to do. Maybe not like the way we used to do, but there's always a way. Catch the ball, change the game. Just change the game, because you have the ability to do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Amen. Wow. I told you guys it would be life-changing. It is life-changing. What an incredible testimony. So where do I even start? Millicent, I love what you said at the end. Catch the curve ball and change the game. And then I had you say it's our state of mind, the faith, finding a supportive group to walk with you through the journey, your prayer group, be your own cheer squad if nobody else is cheering you. Yes. And then I also had you say, be patient. And you also say that you got off of social media because you needed to also just focus on yourself. Yes. So in a way, if you guys know the hashtag choose me, I choose me, that's kind of what Millicent did. And my goodness, what an incredible testimony. I can see all you guys' comments in the chat. Please keep the comments coming. Millicent will be able to look through them right now since she's done speaking. And what a blessing, because after I speak, we're going to be able to have you guys maybe ask some questions, and we'll come back and answer some of the questions on there. I also want to acknowledge a couple of the providers on there. And I want to ask Miss Brenda to please put your BN Health Matters link in the chat. There are people needing to know your chat so they can go through your blog. And I know I'm really excited to have someone on here who I'll probably see if they can talk. We do have an epidemiologist on here who specializes in diseases, and she might be able to talk during the question and answer time. So thank you so much. And I'll go ahead and ask once again, as you come on, just go ahead and mute, and that way only the speaker is going to be showing. And So right now, I want to just kind of bring it back to what we've shared today, which was women's health, which is emotions, emotion, and just that ability to be able to know how to process our lives and our mental health during this time. So I'm going to show a bit of my presentation on here, and let's see, there we go. So women's health, motion, emotion, self-image, moves, and I want to actually start by even sharing up here Millicent's book again. You see the picture when she was talking about the picture. I want to make sure you guys can see the image of her and how God restored and healed her. And if you're going through a journey of healing, you've gone through, I know we have a couple of ladies here who've recovered from cancer, and you're recovering. I've had friends who've had hysterectomies, which has to do with your womb and organs, different kind of illnesses that you've been through. Please just feel free to find help. Don't suffer alone. For anybody who didn't know me, my name is Julia Sana. I am a licensed mental health counselor in Florida, as well as a licensed marriage and family therapist. I practice in Florida in the US. I am a mom. God is the most important part of my life. I am a mom, I'm a wife, I sing. I'm in the middle of writing a book, actually 2 books right now. And I'm so inspired because we have a couple of you guys who've written books. Even Dr. Lillian, who hosts us, has her book, Dare to Dance. So please be sure to also check it out. I do a digital show Monday nights on Let's Talk with my husband, just talking about life issues with everybody. And then we co-founded Positively Africa. We go around in the West sharing about positive things going on in Africa and to encourage people. So that's a little bit about me. But the most important part that I wanted to share with us is about motion creates emotion. What does that mean? Is that when we're going through these feelings of being down, whether it's about our physical health, sexual health, even mental health, the importance of movement. And Millicent is her program where she runs the dancing programs on Zumba. She's been a big help to a lot of ladies who are able to move now at home in the pandemic, and you can watch it online. Personally, I found that motion has really affected my mental health for the better. Even though I practice mental health, that's my job, I also use the same things. And when we share in the women's group, today, since it's mostly women, we love to share our own personal stories. And I didn't even share this with Brenda before. I experienced a situation of having a sexual health condition based on giving birth to our first son. And that's one thing that women never used to talk about. There was a mystery about the process of giving birth. Well, most of us know that you either go through an episiotomy, which is where the OBGYN or the doctor cuts you to get the baby to be delivered safely. They cut you on your vagina, since we're speaking openly, or you tear, either or. And the recovery can depend. Your recovery period during that time can depend. Well, in my case, it also ended up affecting me in a health way. And like Millicent shared, it was a really good experience of talking to the doctor, going back to the doctor and being honest and saying, you know what, something is wrong. I feel like something is not normal. I've never had a baby before, but I feel the amount of pain I'm in is not normal. So the doctor was able to come in and say, take a look at me. I went in for another checkup. And she's like, oh, yeah, I see this is going on. And I don't know any of the ladies on here, if you've ever had anything, I know people have had fibroids, but there's also polyps, polyps. If you've had surgery or you've delivered and you've had issues, that can be one of the things that happens, or even internal scarring, depending. And again, this is all to do with talking to your doctor, talking to your PCP. And then she was able to give me an extra treatment. Then I was like, oh, okay, then guess what, guys? Seeing this is the meeting of mental health and sexual health. So then that physical pain affected my mental health, which affected how I was responding to my husband, because now I was afraid to be intimate because I have the pain of recovery post-delivery. And of course, the doctors ask you not to be intimate for 2 months, at least after you have the baby. So even after that, because of the pain, I had a mental health issue. I could not process the pain. And luckily enough, the way God works, I was in my graduate program at the time. And so we were in the middle of learning about sexual health. We were actually taking a class in sex therapy. And so it was such a blessing to be able to bring these issues in class, because we could talk about issues as therapists who were training together with my professor. And then one of the programs, I discovered what I was going through. They gave us the name for the mental health portion of it. And so it wasn't real, there was the physical real pain, but there was also a mental health component that was creating an extra pain in the physical. And so being able to process that in a therapeutic kind of way really helps. So I want to encourage you guys, if you're experiencing pain when you're being intimate, please go ahead and speak to your OBGYN. You've seen that that's a theme here. We really encourage you to speak to your doctor, medical provider, and also find out if you can contact a therapist or therapist groups and find out if there's a psychological component to it, which might have to do with the fear and the response to the pain. And so that's the part that I wanted to share about. Let's be honest about what you're feeling. Don't suffer alone. And of course, that healed. So that's the part I wanted to share. When Brenda was sharing, that's what came to my mind. So the motion creates emotion has to do with using motion to affect the things that we're feeling and the things that we're thinking. So our first thing is our self-image. Our guardians shape how our earliest views of sexuality. How many of you guys had your parents slap your little hand or slap your brother's hands or little boys when they're pulling and tugging on their penis, or your little girl, when they're little, they're exploring their bodies. They don't know what a vagina is. They're all checking what the body is. But the way we react to the children and the way our parents reacted to us sometimes gave us the feeling that there's something shameful about our body part. And so instead of just being appreciative of every single part of our bodies, as girls especially, we learn there's a secret place that's wrong. Don't think about it. Don't explore. Don't be curious. What is that? What does it do? So we tend to have a lot of issues, emotional baggage to do with that. And I'll tell you, in therapy, as a therapist, I've had to work with a lot of women, especially women, on creating a healthy sexual view of yourself. And by talking about the fact that God created all our parts, including our vaginas, our clitoris, the penises for the men, and the word pleasure is not sin. The word pleasure does not equal sin. God created pleasure, because we've had a moment where people, there was a belief in some ways that feeling pleasure, thinking about pleasure is a sinful thing. That's not how God looks at it. He created these things to be part of our lives as women. And if you're struggling with it, then we need to look at what your concept of God is, because God is not here to condemn us for the bodies that he gave us. Okay, those are two separate things. And I've had to share with people that the self-image you have of yourself as a little girl, and looking at how God looks at us, God looks at us as worthy. He created us with these areas, these parts of our bodies, that we need to educate ourselves and learn, so that when you are with your spouse, they don't know what you need, what gives you pleasure, unless you tell them, as Brenda was showing us. But how do you know if your own body is a mystery to you? So, and that's what also helps you to be honest with the doctors when you're experiencing pain that might be psychological, and pain that might be physical, to be able to talk about it. So that's the first thing I wanted to let us know. And our emotions are believed to reside in our soul. We can't control their onset, but we can control our responses. So just know what is the triggering event that's affecting your mental health. What is what's the automatic, what's the uncontrolled emotion you're feeling? I'm going to remind us again, thank you, that we go ahead and mute. Thank you so much. And then what's your response to the emotion? Decide to change the thought affecting the emotion, or you can use motion and movement to interrupt it. Because when you're feeling down, what's the first thing we do? We're like, I'm gonna go take a walk. I'm gonna go run. For us, I love dancing. I'm like, I'm gonna turn on Saturdays, we always have African music on, because we're teaching the kids about the Zilizopendwa, old school, new school. And so we dance around, and all of a sudden everybody's laughing. So movement literally will interrupt the emotions, especially if they're negative emotions. And also come up with a plan, prepare, and list a loved one who will help you redirect your emotional energy. And it ties on to Millicent sharing with us about having a support group, so that when you're low, there are people who are there with you. This could be a trusted friend where you're able to text them, today is not the best day, please just pray for me, or I'm feeling this kind of way, please pray with me, talk with me, or what's going on. So you're checking in with somebody. So don't suffer alone. You're going to find out that our theme today is a lot of that. Don't suffer alone. Movement boosts your feel-good hormones. Please consult your doctor before you do any physical movement, of course. But then choose. After that, go ahead and find your motion. Do you like walking, running, dancing, workouts, or meditation? I love all those except running. Mine is more like a little jog, but I'm up to walking, and I've been walking and I love it, and I do Zumba. So it's because this is a thing that women, as women, when we do that, it's boosting our feelings, it's boosting our emotions, it's boosting our mental health as well. So this is at the bottom, and again, this is on video, it's gonna be available to you in the link, how to challenge the negative thoughts that we have, whether it's about yourself, sexual health, your physical health. We all struggle with mental health thoughts and thoughts that come into our minds. And what I share with people is thoughts are like birds flying up above our heads. We can't control the birds, but you can stop the bird from building a nest on your head. So that's how you challenge a negative thought. You're like, I'm not going to let you build that nest. So ask yourself, am I falling into a thinking trap? Is this thought really real? Is this a possibility that this thing will happen? Is it certain, or am I just worrying about it? Is this a hassle or a horror? If I tell my friend about this thought, what are they going to tell me about it? So what would I tell a friend who is struggling with this thought? Has this happened before? What did I do when this happened before? Am I 100% sure that this will happen? And then what's the worst logically that could happen? Now, as women, we're afraid of thinking of the worst sometimes. And as Christians, if you're a person of faith, if you're a person of the Muslim faith, if even in our African religions, we kind of have a weird fear of thinking about what's the worst that could happen. Yet we're able to look at it and walk back and say, but I can do this, that's going to change it. God can help me be able to make it through in this way. So when you plan for the worst in your mind, then all of a sudden you realize that beast was not as bad as you thought it was. So you say, what's the worst thing if I go for the interview? You're like, oh, they'll tell me I don't qualify for the job. Okay, next interview. So you've thought of the worst, and then now you're working back to, but I'm qualified, I'm going in with my steam, I'm going in with my CV, whatever it is. So I wanted to make sure that I share this part. And by the way, I invite you guys to look back on our previous videos. We've done a lot of work in our webinars with the African Mental Health series on our thought life, our feeling life, and stigma on mental health, dealing with stress and anxiety during COVID. Please look through all our past videos that are available on Dr. Odera's YouTube channel. And that way you're able to remind yourself of some of these things. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to that spiel, because we want to come back in and have a couple of questions. I'm going to ask, I believe, I'm seeing a couple of people on here, and I see some comments in the chat room. So I'm asking our speakers to take a look at the chat room and any of the questions that came up. And if you're on here, thank you so much for the comments that you're giving us, because this is our answer and question time right now. And one of the things that I saw somebody post earlier that I want to go over was, I believe Hilda is on here, and I don't know if she's still on here in the chat, or she dipped out yet, but she mentioned about STIs, which is sexually transmitted illnesses. We used to call them STDs, but it could be either or. So just, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them on there, and what we can answer, we will answer. If we can't answer it, then we'll let you know. And let's see, I'm gonna pick, she shared something about some STIs that are spread through oral sex.
Okay, I saw it. Yeah, she says, Hilda says there are so many STIs out there. If the doctor doesn't know about your sexual practices, you might not be getting all the necessary screenings. For example, if someone has rectal or oral sex, that resulted in rectal, or I can say pharyngeal gonorrhea, the doctor might not think to check those sites for STIs. I hope she would say something.
Yes, because she's a specialist on that. Hilda, are you on here?
Yeah, hello. My name is Hilda. I work in HIV and STD prevention. Yeah, so I was really happy to listen to your presentation, Brenda, and I was happy to hear that the doctor is asking you all those invasive questions. The truth is, most people will not offer information. So the best practice then is just to ask everyone and just say, this is routine, you know? Because if you wait for people to tell you, oh, by the way, I'm also having this, I'm also doing that, so they can get tested for stuff, most people, there's a bias, not the bias on the provider, but the bias as a patient. We all want to appear, you know, to be goody two shoes. And so nobody usually wants to volunteer that information. And a lot of times people don't even know that it's a thing. And there's a lot of misconception, misunderstanding, misinformation, even among our young people. I've heard, especially like with Muslim youth, oh, we're not supposed to have sex before we are married. So they're not going to have vaginal sex, but they'll have rectal sex. I'm like, sex is sex, you know? You're still putting yourself through, I mean, it's still risky. So if that's the only reason why you're choosing to do it this other way, I mean, especially among high schoolers, young adults, adolescents, those are very common practices, but a lot of times they don't even know that the risk is almost the same. So I'm gonna leave it at that, unless there's more questions.
Thank you so much, Hilda. Thank you so much. Because that's true. Teenagers, they will not, they'll not talk about it, or they'll think alternative ways of having sex. It's still sex, but they'll think that maybe that won't affect them in terms of disease. So thank you for bringing that up, which reminded me of something that we've shared, we share as therapists to share with couples. Also, being able to check with your doctors, especially if you're engaging in sexual practices that might affect your actual physical health. Because I know there's been sometimes especially if you're having oral sex and you're not sure if your partner or your partner has had either a yeast infection, because that happens with women, and sometimes guys catch it too, husbands catch it too. But maybe that could affect you. So it's always good to check and be able to have an honest conversation. And as we've said, every place has a clinic that you can go in for sexual health checkups. And as therapists, we really refer them to clinics and people that they're able to talk to. There's a really good question right now online. Musi asked, as Christians, what is your take on the HPV vaccine for your children? I'll tell you my honest, because we had a doctor offer to give us to our son. At the time, I was not sure. I'd looked at the research on how it was affecting boys at the time, and it was not something that I was comfortable with. But I know with our girls, as a parent, I'll probably go ahead and let them have it, simply because of we were looking at the cervical cancer, the prevalence of cervical cancer, especially in as we've seen with Black women, African women, women of African descent. Some of these illnesses affect us in a different way. So that is something, they're still young right now. And I think they start getting it at maybe 11 or 12, but that's something for them for sure. So for my sons, I wasn't sure. So I was not looking at it as a religious thing. I was actually looking at it from my health point of view. So for me, my opinion is actually based on the health point of view, because I believe if there's a medical progress that has been made to make lives better and lower the chances of disease, then I completely believe once you've checked the efficacy of the process, talk to your doctor, seeing what the side effects might be, might not be, that you should be able to make an individual choice as parent or as a woman, as a guy, based on that. And also if you've prayed about it and you've talked to your pastor, if that's something that you want to do, or talk to your imam or rabbi or religious leader, then you should be able to make the choice based on that. But I look at it personally from a medical point of view. So that's a really good question, Musi. Thank you for that. There's a question on there and I want to throw it to the providers. Actually, I want to also acknowledge we have Nestor. I believe we have a couple of other providers online, and we have groups based in Kenya. Please go ahead and post your information as providers in Kenya, so that the people who are looking on here who are in Kenya, they'll be able to find you. There's a question on touch based on sexuality and youth. diagnosed with ADHD, autism, and ADD. Now, I've done counseling with teenagers who have sexual issues or they're in same-sex relationships, but I've not personally talked with teenagers who are dealing with ADHD and autism and sexuality. So maybe if there's someone on here who's dealt with that, you can come up and talk about it. But what I would tell you about working with teenagers experiencing sexual issues or sexual struggles, or maybe recovering from something that happened to them, usually a lot of it is about speaking to them about openness. Who is the adult that they can trust? It's really important to find a peer, not a peer, but an adult that they are able to trust with whatever they're going through, but also talking about risks. With all children, all teenagers, either way, we talk with them about the benefits and the risk of sexual behavior and helping them make a choice based on that. Anybody, do we have any of the other providers who want to jump in and say something about that? This is a good question on sex. Oh, I will tie it to this. As Christians, somebody gave a comment. Christians were taught sex is bad when you're single. Then on your wedding day, you're given a permission to explore the bad thing. 20 years later on, you turn on the switch. How do you balance that as an adult? That is my favorite question because I teach couples on that. So keep a pin on the teenagers and sexual conversation. I wanna touch on this and then go back to the teenagers. That's my thing. That's why I talked about the God concept, that we need to develop a very healthy sexual view of ourselves when you're single, before you get married, because it's been unfortunate that the message we got from the church, and I'm in church ministry, and growing up, that was a message that there was something wrong even about sex and pleasure, which is why I use the word pleasure, because a lot of people cringe when they hear that, and climax, and having an orgasm. There was just this whole thing that's evil, that's wrong. You think God would have put it in us if it was wrong? So the balance of doing that has to do with also the premarital counseling. We're big on asking for premarital counseling because it helps you work through those images, those thoughts that you've had prior to deciding that you want to get married, so that you look at your sexual view and you're able to talk about things that are uncomfortable for you. Maybe there are women who don't even know their own body parts. And I'm sure Brenda is a proponent of this. Have you ever taken a mirror and looked at yourself and known what is going on? Because for a lot of women, that's a whole mystery, because we've been cultured in guilt. Why are you guilty about your own body, parts of your own body? And also when I share with women and couples, I've taught groups of couples, I actually teach them about learning about how your body responds during sex, during arousal, foreplay, arousal, sex, response, and just that pattern, and being able to know how each partner behaves differently. But before that, it begins in the mind and how you view yourself, and if this is okay for you. But there's no way to sort that out until you look at how your view of God and sexuality is. There's a book that's coming out right now. It's going to be a really controversial book, especially for the providers here in the US. I want to point this out to you. It's a book that's looking at research with 20,000 Christians and the way that we've gotten stigmatized, the beliefs in sex and marriage, and some of the things that we've been taught that have ended up creating friction in marriages because of how sex has been viewed. So I'm gonna go, as you guys talk, I'll look at it and put the link online. It's going to be challenging people about that. So I'll let a provider or anybody on here, one of our experts, talk about teenagers and sex and working with teenagers through that as well. Jeopardy music. Anybody? Going once? Okay, now I have a gallery view. I'm kind of trying to view everybody else on here. All right, so Hilda just posted HPV is the most common STI in America, with prevalence 50 to 70%. A lot of this is asymptomatic, and most can clear the virus on their own. So an asymptomatic male who has no symptoms can pass it on to others. So that's the rationale behind vaccinating young boys and girls. And also, most kids will not tell anyone when they decide to experiment with sex. That is so true. Kids don't talk about it unless you're open as a parent and you ask them about it, which I highly recommend. Create an open atmosphere in your home to be able to have our girls and our boys talk to us when they're curious about sex or when they're starting to have those feelings. Hence, the idea is to get them protected from HPV before their sexual debut. HPV virus causes cervical, penile, anal, throat cancers, to name a few. I'll tell you, any woman who's given birth in America, we all had to undergo an HPV test before delivery. They give it the day of or the day before delivery because they don't want you to pass it on to the baby while you're giving birth, especially if you're giving birth, natural birth. So for us here, it's been normalized to have an HPV check with the doctor right before you give birth. So Hilda, who's an epidemiologist specializing in sexual, in AIDS and sexual diseases, she's on there. She's posted that in the chat room. All right. So we're looking at some other questions in the chat room. Any comment, Millicent? Any other comment?
No, maybe I would ask one of the providers a question about allergies with condoms. Are there people who are presented in your clinic who actually are allergic to particular kinds of condoms? Brenda?
I think the best person to answer that question will be Hilda, because I know her background epidemiology deals with that. Hilda, are you okay answering that question?
I'm sorry, I kind of missed the question. Do you mind repeating it for me?
Are there people who are presented in, who have come into your clinic who have allergies with condoms?
Yes, now I am not a clinician, but I do know that there's people that have latex allergies. So they do have non-latex condoms, I think, yeah.
Yeah, they have non-latex condoms. And one of the things when couples present that in session, when they're trying to decide about their sex planning, we talk about that. If you're allergic to latex condoms, there are other condoms available, types and differences, and also even choosing your birth control method that works for you as a couple. Because there's some couples who just decide it's too much for them to worry about the condoms, especially if they're dealing with allergies. But right now in the market, there's a lot of other types, so that if you're allergic, you can try something different. And also finding out with your doctor about the latest, because right now, so much of the stuff on the market, there's a lot of stuff coming out fresh in the market. So that's a really good question. Thank you for that question, Millicent. If you guys have questions we've run up, it's 1:35 right now, and we're looking to wrap up. So we probably will give you about 6 more minutes, because we're looking at some of the questions that were on here. Thank you so much, everybody, for the comments that you've posted. We have another message that just came in. We have a rise in the number of women with fibroids. Why is it that we have a rise in the number of women with fibroids lately? Let's see. I personally, I don't have an answer on that. Brenda, Miss Brenda, do you have, from your experience on psychoed, do you have any statistics on the fibroids in women right now?
So for fibroids, Black women were the great risk factor because of the color of our skin is one thing. We are vitamin D deficient. There's so many things. The other thing that is coming up with research is, and again, this is not a one thing. There's a lot of stuff. We start, according to research, Black women, we start periods at a younger age. So that is a risk factor by itself. Something, as again, I said, vitamin D. There's something else called endocrine disrupting chemicals that disrupt our endocrine system. And basically what that means is there's a lot of use of products that are disrupting that endocrine system. And Black women use more products than other women. So there's a lot of issues. I can send you some info. If someone is interested, just send me an email and I can shoot you, because I did a program on that. I can send you the information. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to what Brenda said. That's a fantastic explanation. The other thing I would say as an epidemiologist is also surveillance bias. Since these things are known, the doctors are constantly looking for them. if you look, you will find. It's not that they were not common when we were growing up, but our mothers were not paying attention to those things. I remember when I was a teenager and I was having some issues, my mom never took anything seriously. She just said, oh, you're a woman now. That is the life of a woman. You will be suffering, you know? But if I had that daughter right now, I don't want her to suffer for one day. I'm taking her to the gyna immediately, you know? And so the thing is, the moment you know that this could be an issue, then the doctors are very vigilant and looking for these things. And to me, that's a good thing, because the moment you know what the problem is, then you can go about fixing it.
Thank you, Ms. Hilda. I want to add a resource for couples on here. That's a Christian-based resource, especially on sexual health. There are a couple of books that have been a real help that I've shared with couples before, but there's also websites. One of them is themarriagebed.com, themarriagebed.com. And also, if you're in the process of trying to figure out maybe spicing up your married life, your sex life, they have a new website also called covenantspice.com. And Covenant Spice, they're able to sell items for couples who are looking to do the extra fun things in their relationship. Because as we know, what scripture says about the marriage bed being pure, that whatever you agree with your spouse, you guys can go ahead and have a blast, as Millicent was saying. Go ahead and have a blast in your health. But the most important thing that we wanted to share today was on us as women taking control of our own health, mental health, emotional health, and sexual health. Thank you so much. It's 1:40 now in the eastern side of the Atlantic. So I want to thank you guys so much. And Dr. Lillian Odera is posting on there. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. Find out on Facebook by searching on the Promoting African Mental Health. For providers, also join us on the network of African mental health practitioners to find out more about what we're doing. So thank you so much for being on here. And again, the video will go out also on your email. She had put the link up already, but it will go online as well. And thank you so much for being on here. So we're gonna thank our providers today, our speakers. Thank you so much, Millicent Yangon, for all that you've shared with us and encouraging us. Thank you so much, Ms. Brenda and Ms. Dr. Lillian for hosting us. And we look forward to the next one. She's gonna post the dates for us to know when the next one is coming up in April. God bless you guys so much. If you have more questions, just feel free to email them out. I believe you have the email for Dr. Odera that was based on how you registered for the webinar. How do you get on the email list? You need to have registered for the Zoom, and that way Dr. Odera captured your email. But you can also send an email, I believe, to info@lillianodera.com. I'm going to put her email on here because she's the one who has the email list right now. lillianodera.com, I believe. That's, if that's not it, Dr. Odera, let me know. But I believe it's info@lillianodera.com, and you can she'll add you onto the email list. Thank you so much, everybody. Goodbye. We're going to just start logging off. I'm going to ask for the providers to stay behind for maybe just about 10 minutes. But thank you so much, Hilda, for speaking. Thank you so much for Miss Nesta, who's on here, Kenyan providers who are on here with us. And you guys have a wonderful weekend, and God bless you so much. Thank you.